Hey, everybody, and welcome to And Action Filmmaking Podcast. I'm Tommy DiNucci, as always, here with Mike Messier. Today, we have a very fun show for you. We're going to be talking all about my new web series, The Florist. We shot The Florist a year ago right here in Rhode Island, and now we're ready to put this thing out on Patreon. So, we're going to be getting into all the behind the scenes fun. We're going to tell you where you can go ahead and watch The Florist. That's all going down today. And I decided to, I want to take my time on this show. I don't want to rush through the Florist. And we try to keep our shows right at that 1 hour mark. So I'm going to feel it out. And if I feel as though we didn't really cover everything, we're just going to go ahead and do a Florist Part 2 next week. But let's get right into it. Mike, how the hell are you? How's your week going? It looks like we have a little bit of a matching color scheme going on. You get the Rocky kind of blue gray. I got my bluish gray on. Kind of we're in sync today, bud.
Yeah, I've always been a black t-shirt type of guy, but here in sunny Florida, that's not always good. When you're in the 3XL range, sometimes that black, the color can induce heat. So I've been trying to mix it up and get into heather grays, as they call it, dark grays, as it were. And
Nice.
yeah, buddy. So I did watch The Florist, and I just wanted to run this by you. I'm not sure. How much of the actual story do you want to talk about without giving away spoilers? Because I'd like our audience to have a chance to see this. It's on your Patreon page as of now. I watched it from Patreon last night, so I'll let you navigate that. But I just don't want to
Well,
spoil
I mean,
anything.
I think there's a little bit of a surprise at the end of this episode. I think we want to keep that a secret, so let's not give that away. But I think we can talk about the story and the structure of it all. But let's take it way back to the beginning. This kind of came about. Glenn Ciano and I, who is a not only one of my best friends, but just a collaborator of mine. We've been working together really since my earliest days in the movie business. This is a true story, and it's kind of funny. I can gauge my entire relationship with Glenn based on the age of his oldest daughter, Charlotte, because when I first met Glenn, I was working at a filmmaker's office, and Glenn came in to visit, and there he was holding his brand new baby daughter in his arms. Like pretty much, I think she was like a couple months old, and now she is going off to college in the fall. So that gives you a little bit of an idea how long Glenn and I have been friends and how long we've been working together. So Glenn and I have always wanted to do something together, but a little different in terms of like the traditional way that you put a show out. We've made a lot of movies the traditional way. Glenn's directed several movies. I've directed several movies. Glenn's also a screenwriter. I'm a screenwriter. And we've written some scripts before together in the past, but we said, you know what? Let's do a project that we can kind of just control 100% for ourselves. We have no control of distributors coming in and telling us what to do. We're going to structure the financing in such a way so that even the financiers creatively can't really tell us what to do. This is all going to be something that we really want to put forth on the screen as artists in our own way. And we had the idea to self distribute the movie. And Mike, we've talked a little bit about self distribution on the past. In the past, actually, we talked about it a little bit. I want to say last week, as Larry joins the program here. Hey,
Hey,
Larry,
Larry, how's it going,
why
buddy?
don't you maybe get over here? Sorry about that, guys. Larry loves saying hi to all of our And Action watchers. So yeah, it came to this thing where we wanted to put this out ourselves. We didn't want to rely on a distributor. We wanted to market it and put it out ourselves. So a lot of creatives have been using Patreon. Some of you may be familiar with Patreon. A lot of you probably aren't familiar with Patreon. It's a relatively new platform. And what's really exciting about it is it allows creatives and artists to have all the control with their content and how they put it out. You can put it out on your Patreon page and you can create basically a shop and you can charge whatever you'd like. You can advertise it however you'd like. It's a really nice way to kind of, for lack of a better phrasing, it's almost like you're your own independent distribution company all by yourself. And in a lot of ways, you're like your own startup company. So in a way, The Florist is a bit of a startup company. We're trying to put these shows out and tell this story all on Patreon, and we're going to put it out all by ourselves as well.
Yeah, Tommy, and for many folks like myself have probably heard the word Patreon as you're watching a video. For instance, here on YouTube, a lot of times the YouTuber will say, "And if you like this content and you really want to support our channel, check out our Patreon page." And that's basically because Patreon's a more direct uh, provider, content creator to consumer relationship where the money is a little more, boom to boom instead of the middleman of the monoliths of Google and so forth. So I actually started a YouTube. I'm sorry, I started a Patreon channel 6 or 7 years ago, buddy. I just never launched it. So I give you and Glenn and everybody credit for getting this thing off the ground, because I know as much as an effort is to go into a YouTube channel or a Facebook page, even more of a concentrated effort has to go into the Patreon.
Yeah, Patreon is one of those things where it's kind of it's almost like your own mom and pop shop to sell your content. And that's kind of how we're positioning it. So let's talk a little bit about Glenn and I. Back to the Glenn and I story, just kind of kicking around ideas. We've always wanted to do something funny. You know, Glenn and I have a lot of laughs together. We've never really done comedy. Glenn started off in the comedic space a little bit. Um, I've written a couple of comedy screenplays, but I've never actually made one of them. So this was our chance to try to write something that was funny. We're going to write something in that comedy space. However, at the same time, we wanted to draw upon our strengths, Mike. And, Glenn's made a few horror movies. I've made quite a few violent pictures myself. So we wanted to kind of combine some dark humor and some elements of comedy along with this slightly graphic, at times violent story to kind of just make this hodgepodge of humor, darkness, and overall entertainment. Try to make people have some laughs, and at the same time be like, "Whoa, that was pretty fucking crazy."
Yeah, and for those that need a point of reference, I mean, I think of things like going back to Danny DeVito and Billy Crystal and Throw Mama from the Train, and I mean, I don't want to say it's definitely not as bloody as Reservoir Dogs, but I mean, there is some humor in that one as well. So I mean, there are a lot of pieces that people like. Tarantino built a career on it. You mix humor and violence and gangsters and all types of stuff, and I think The Florist kind of is in that space. And with your work on Vault and Almost Mercy, you're not afraid to get your hands dirty, so to speak, with the blood. So you guys were kind of in a good space here.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. We had a great crew. We're going to get into all that, and we're going to talk later on the show about some of the production people that made some of that violence happen and made it look so authentic on the screen. But yeah, Glenn and I just kept writing, and we came up with a story that we knew that we could kind of continue telling in a world that we liked. Where meaning, when you write something that's episodic, and I only know this because I've heard this. It's not like I'm one of these episodic TV writers. I've never done any television. It's always something that I wanted to crack into. But when you write something episodic, when you're writing that first episode, you need to feel as though, okay, if somebody came up to me and said, "Hey, this is great. I love it. I want 5 episodes. Write me 5 screen. I want to see the first 5 episodes. What happens? What's the story arc? What happens down the road?" So those are all things that Glenn and I had to think about. Okay, we love this pilot episode that we're about to write, but where can we go with this down the road? Um, and we were excited by these characters and the fact that, wow, we could kind of have a whole new standalone story almost every episode. So let me just tell you quickly, give you the TV guide thumbnail sketch of the story. The Florist is basically about a father and son who live together. The son is a little too old to be living at home, and the father is a florist, and he's this happy-go-lucky guy. And the son's been dealing with some bouts of depression and things like that, and he's just in a funk. And through some kind of mistaken identity, he learns that his father's job is a lot more a lot different than he originally thought his whole life. He finds out that his dad is actually a hitman and that he has been taking people out for cash this whole time. However, they don't just kill anybody. They're not these ruthless hitmen. They kill bad people, people that are kind of above the law, people that have gotten off on these, terrible atrocities, and they beat the case. But now the florist provides a special brand of justice for people that seemingly skirt the law. So he's a little bit of a vigilante. And we find out that this, almost Punisher type character is hidden behind this friendly, happy go lucky florist. And then, of course, my character, because I'm actually in this thing, good Lord, my character plays his son who realizes, hey, you know what? I think that this might get me out of my funk. Maybe this is what I've been looking for this whole time. Maybe this is what's been missing.
Yeah, the character that you portray has a bit of a void in his life, and he's kind of at that millennial point where, okay, I'm not a kid anymore, but I'm kind of living like a kid. I think there's a mention to some suicidal tendencies, and he's taking medication to deal with that. And he's really looking for a direction in his life. And when he quite literally stumbles upon his father's vocation, he's kind of inspired, like, hey, maybe this is the answer for me. If it's good enough for good old dad, why isn't it good enough for me? And your father, played by our buddy Fred Sullivan, who's such a legendary New England theater actor, and he's done a lot of work for you in film. You guys have a nice rapport because you guys, I think, as for myself, same thing. Fred was your first acting teacher, so you guys have got what 15 years invested in a personal relationship. So I think that carries over pretty well to this series.
Yeah, let's talk about Fred Sullivan for a minute. We're getting a little ahead of ourselves because we're getting into the casting process. But Fred was definitely a guy that we had in mind to play this part pretty much from the beginning. Rarely do you get a chance to actually write a part for a character, but we knew that we were going to be kind of producing this and calling all of the shots, as they say. So we knew from day one, like, all right, well, we're going to write this with Fred in mind, and we'll be able to find a pocket of time where he can do it. So it was really great to work with him. And Fred was even part of the script process in a sense that, Fred's been doing this for a long time, and he's such a veteran, and he's got such a grasp of the human language. Really like grasp of the English language is what I meant to say. But he really just has such a way with words that you can write a line of dialogue for Fred, and more often than not, he's going to read it and change that one or two words or add a different phrase or maybe just change up the order of the phrasing. And he always takes a line of dialogue and brings it to the next level. So it was really fun to not only write for Fred, but then have Fred take what we wrote for him and personalize it even more and kind of, knock the cover off it. I mean, he's phenomenal in this movie. And the great thing about Fred as a character is, he's able to kind of flip the switch from being this kind of jovial dad character to when the shit really hits the fan. Like, you truly do believe that, like, he can kill, like you see that kind of animal rage in him, and that more than rage, just business-like approach to getting something done that
Yeah,
only a hitman could have.
yeah, conviction is what the word I would use. And once again, I'm trying to not give away too many spoilers, but even the way that his character, the father, gets into the business is kind of, once again, thrown into his hands, so to speak. And there was a line of dialogue. I won't give away the scene, but there's something that felt very genuine. And you'll know what scene I'm talking about, Tommy. There's a father and son chat on a couch, and Fred said something that sounded very Italian American, very Rhode Island. It was a phrase, something like "Let me talk to you," or something like "Let me tell you." Or the way that he started the sentence was very genuine, very father son, Rhode Island, New England. The phrasing of it was like, "Let me talk to you." There's something like that, but whatever it
Well,
was
that's
really.
because Fred's a terrific actor, and great actors are able to make you believe that it's real, right? Like, it's
Yeah,
kind of fun. You mentioned that Fred was my acting coach coming up, and one of the things that Fred always used to say, it's pretty cool, is like, you rehearse the dialogue so many times, but it's your job as the actor to make people believe that you're saying it for the very first time, right? And I think a lot of actors forget that. It's like, wait a minute, every time you deliver this line, it's got to be delivered like it's the very first time it was ever said. And I think Fred really captures that spirit when he delivers his lines. You believe everything. It's all about the illusion, brother. So yeah, Fred was terrific. We were writing for Fred, but we knew we had an uphill battle because we couldn't do anything with Fred until we got money. We needed to
Right.
raise some money. So what we did was, and I won't get too into exact numbers, but this budget was not very high. I mean, when I tell you, it was very much one of those things where got a lot of favors from a lot of great people to come in and lend their talent at a discounted rate so that we could do this. Um, Shout out to my dear friend Jeff at Albert's Flower Shop. He hooked us up with the location where we shot the flower shop. Just a lot of, connecting. We connected a lot of dots to make this happen. Again, I've been doing this for a while. Glenn's been doing this for a while. We went back and got a lot of favors. Glenn got some favors with some of the restaurants that he's connected with, and we got a really good deal on catering. We started putting together a budget, and we were able to raise a little bit of money to get this project off the ground. And then finally, it all became real. Once you have that money in the bank, you say to yourself, okay, well, let's start looking at the calendar. Let's start picking out some dates. So April looked like a really good time for us. I was just coming off of a movie that I directed at the time called Seclusion, which Fred was actually in. So we were kind of still in that mode of like in a production based mindset. And we went right into it. And again, when you're making something at a low budget, we've talked about this on the show a million times, you have to hold on tight to what you have around you and utilize everything. So rather than paying for a location where my character and Fred's character live, we weren't about to go scout locations. We weren't going to go pay for something. We weren't going to run the risk of, renting out someone's house or even taking their house for free. And then, God forbid, we break something or something gets messed up. So I just took it upon myself to say, all right, we're going to just film this at my house. So the majority of this movie, with the exception of a couple scenes, particularly like there's a scene at like a firing range, which obviously isn't my house. And there's the scenes at the flower shop. Just about everything else is filmed at my house, in or around it. And that was done to save money. And obviously for time as well. We shot this entire production in 3 days.
Wow.
And listen, just so everyone knows, this isn't feature length. This is your standard, 30-minute sitcom style presentation, which means the episode's about 24 minutes. So we got ourselves a nice 24-minute pilot episode, which we filmed in 3 days. And again, I was coming off of a movie Seclusion, so when it came time to put together the crew, I kind of just cherry picked a lot of people from that Seclusion crew, which Seclusion's a Lifetime movie, which hasn't even come out yet. But it's a great film, and I'm excited for it to be released eventually, probably later on in the year, maybe top of next year. So everything was fresh. So my DP, our DP was simply Chris By, who just had DP'd Seclusion. Chris By had also worked with Glenn in the past on a couple of Glenn's movies that he directed. So it was a perfect fit. It made sense. Guys like Michael Flynn, who was Chris's first AC, came on board. We had a really nice camera department there. Of course, I had Mike Braga working on the movie. Not only later in the movie, he came in as an editor, but he was also part of the DIT process, working DIT on the movie. So we had a really solid crew in the camera department, and we knew this movie was going to have the right look. Chris By is also a gaffer, so he lended us a lot of his lighting equipment for like next to nothing. Gave us a really, really good deal. And here's the fun part too. Everybody stayed at my house. Like we all stayed at my house, like it was part of a big movie making sleepover party. And that always kind of makes it a kind of it builds up the camaraderie a little bit on set.
Hey, Tommy, I don't know if you remember, it's been a year, but do you happen to recall, was this weekdays, weekends? You said a 3-day shoot. So I'm just morbidly curious. Was it a Friday, Saturday, Sunday? Was it a midweek thing? Do you recall that?
I think it was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It might have been Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, something like that. I think Yeah, I think it was Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, because I think the first day we shot at the flower shop and they were closed on Sundays, and that's why we were able to get in there. Um, but yeah, let's talk about the rest of the crew, the rest of the cast before we get into the crew. So you got me and Fred playing the father and son. I also had to get myself, really the most exciting person that I worked with in a lot of ways was my dear old friend Tommy Dreamer. Tommy Dreamer is a pro wrestling star who's a bit of a legend in that space. He's been there to support me and all the projects that I've worked on in the past for so many years. He was in my very first movie, Self Storage, and really, he's one of those guys who every time I've called upon him to do anything in a film, he's been there for me. He's supported the project. He promotes the project. He's as they say a perfect citizen on set, just somebody that you'd kind of want to be around. And I knew that I needed a draw of some kind. I needed somebody who's got that social media presence, who's got that uh, kind of attraction beyond anything that anyone else in this cast could bring out. Tommy Dreamer has almost 1 million followers throughout his social media platforms. It's pretty incredible. The word influencer is thrown around a lot, but Tommy Dreamer really does have a tremendous amount of influence in the wrestling space. So I figured, you know what? This is my best chance to not only work with someone that I really care about, but also work with somebody that I know, fingers crossed, will get behind the project and really promote it and be proud of it. Because there's nothing worse than when you make a movie with somebody or you make a production and your big star, the person who has the most drawability, the most pop, they just disappear suddenly. And that's happened to me many times, man. I don't want to name any names, but I've made movies with some pretty big stars, pretty notable stars that when the movie came out, it's nothing but tumble. You see a tumbleweed blow by, they're gone. You know.
Yeah, and bro, I can feel you on that one, and not even the courtesy of a retweet or a quote tweet or a share, or and we won't go down that social media pariah path too much, but yeah, I mean, I think that's a good lesson for any actor, regardless of your success, is that if you want to be an actor who people call upon to not just work with once or twice, but several times, be proud of the projects you're in, promote them. I mean, and I think a lot of actors, Tommy, just think that these projects are gifts from the heavens, and they don't realize that somebody else is putting the work in to get these things funded and filmed and distributed. And sometimes they just take it for granted. But like you said, Tommy Dreamer, having been to the extreme of professional wrestling, hardcore, he's put the work in. He's put the work in into wrestling and films series, and so Tommy Dreamer really does appreciate the hard work that goes into production. That's for sure.
Yeah, he does. And Tommy's also a behind the scenes guy in the pro wrestling space. He's the equivalent to what you would call a writer in the wrestling world. So Tommy gets it. He knows production, and he was really great to work with, and has a really cool character. And as you can imagine, I don't want to give anything away, but if everything goes well and we're able to continue making episodes of The Florist, hopefully based on the success of episode 1, Tommy Dreamer will be back, and he'll be as they say, reoccurring character on the show. So you can expect a lot more out of Tommy Dreamer in The Florist as we move on down the road. Also, Tommy Dreamer had like kind of a band of henchmen, played by Tom Glenn, who's a really terrific actor that I've worked with for many years now. I've mentioned Tom a couple times on the show. Tom is also a producer on this movie, and just supported the hell out of me. Tom's from Florida, so he came up. It was really fun to have him up here, and uh, again, it's nice sometimes when, not to sound too corny, but like when you make a movie, you become really close, and people become like family. And Tom stayed in my house many times now. This was like the third or fourth time that Tom stayed with me while we were shooting something up here. So it's a lot of fun. It's like getting the band back together. And Tom turned in a really great performance. And he's just got a great look. He's got this kind of steely look where he doesn't have to do a whole lot on camera for you to believe that he's a dangerous man. And I think that those qualities are very rare in an actor. It's you always hear "say less." That's a big common phrase. Everybody's like, like, less is more, say less. Tommy kind of exudes that on camera.
Was there a shot that the first shot we see Tom? He's like in the driver's side of a truck. Was that Tom?
Yeah, Tommy, he's wearing a suit, driving the truck, looking all
Yeah.
badass up there.
Yeah. No,
Um,
he definitely popped off the screen because I remember that pretty well.
yeah, so we got Tom Glenn in there, and then we also have Claudio Orefici, who is in this film. Claudio is another very talented actor, really dedicated to his craft. I know this stuff sounds like no-brainer stuff, but what I love about Claudio is just his level of preparedness. Like
Right.
he's just always on point. He shows up to set, he's going to have his lines down, he's already going to have multiple choices kind of picked out and how he could, different ways he could veer the character. Um, and, he also supported the project and is a producer on this movie. And, we're talking about a couple of guys there that really believe in me. And, that means a lot. It's one thing to say, oh, yeah, I believe in you, but to really, as they say, put your money where your mouth is and support something.
Hey,
Um,
don't forget my
it's a
namesake,
rare thing.
the alternative Mike Messier or Michael Messier, the other Michael Messier was involved.
That's true. That's true. I was gonna get to everybody, Mike. I promise. Yeah, we got Mike Messier, who also played the police officer in this movie, in
Yeah.
this show. And Mike's one of these guys who just loves, loves, loves being on set, loves the business, and he's trying to develop this craft. He's one of these guys who, like we mentioned with Vincent Pastore a couple episodes ago, he got into this business later in the game. Mike had a whole another career before he started to really try his hand at acting, and now he's been doing it for a few years now, and he's getting better every time out. And opportunities like the Florist are kind of a great way for him to get a little bit of playing time, Mike, a little bit of experience on the field. Um, And also, shout out to Matt Weiss, who supported this movie as one of our producers. Matt Weiss produced Man in Red Bandana, which is a documentary that I worked on a while back. Really, really powerful film if you haven't seen it already. And Matt's a very talented screenwriter as well. And it was really great to have his support. He kind of got it right away. He kind of heard the concept and was like, "Oh, this is cool." And he's always interested in new and potentially unique ways to put products out there in this space. I mean, listen, the movie business and the entertainment world is so strange. It changes so often. When I first got into the business, whatever, 10, 15 years ago, it was all about DVDs, right? Everything came out
Right.
on DVD. And if your movie had a DVD deal, you were off to the races and you were happy as can be. Nowadays, DVDs are fucking dinosaurs. It's dead. It's all over. And who knows? And everything's streaming. And in another 10 or 15 years, who knows what the new presentation will be? So this changes all the time. So I think people find that it's unique that you can get the Florist right on Patreon. You can just go there and sign up and download it for $3, Mike. $3, you get yourself 24 minutes of very solid entertainment. And we'll continue to tell this story if we get your support and are able to, crank out enough downloads to pay for episode 2, Mikey. That's the name of the game. That's the plan.
Yeah, I was going to ask you because you did get my $3 and it was easy enough on the good old PayPal and everything, and was able to watch it in the convenience of my own home, so to speak. And I was going to ask you, Tommy, is there a game plan in mind? Are you guys just kind of seeing what the feedback is for this episode number one? Is there a script written for episode number two?
Of course,
Where?
there's a game plan in mind, Mike. What do you think? I'm just
Well,
willy nilly
well,
producing things?
I don't know. You tell me, buddy. What's going on? Tell us about it.
Well, the plan is to put this episode out and promote it. And, with the proceeds that we make from this episode, we will produce episode 2 and so forth and so on, and just continue telling the story. Um, we do the nice thing about, like I mentioned early on, when Glenn and I were writing this story, we wrote it in such a way that these episodes are kind of evergreen in a sense. They can kind of just continue on because each episode our main characters are essentially going to be on a new hit, on a new adventure, on a new mission after a new bad guy. So, although we'll have reoccurring characters that kind of thread their way in and out of the various episodes, the goal is to basically create a new mark for the father and son to go after each episode. Which is nice because that means that we can bring in a lot of nice guest stars to come in and each week feature this new guest star who's going to have a really meaty role in this episode, but then they're going to be gone. So it's great for the actor because they can come in, they can do something nice, but they don't have to feel as though like, okay, time commitment wise, I'm going to have to be on this program forever and ever and ever kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the idea, Mike. We're hoping for a lot of support, and we're looking to take these funds and bankroll them into episode 2.
Well, creatively, buddy, that reminds me, going way, way, way old school. There was a show with Jack Klugman called Quincy, and he was like a forensics investigator. Like, he would investigate the body of a deceased person to figure out how they got killed, and then he'd go on an adventure. And similar to this, each episode of that was a traditional TV series, I think back on ABC in the 80s. But he would investigate. So you could tune into one episode and you would know the backstory of some of the supporting characters, but you wouldn't necessarily have to watch week to week, which I think in more recent years, Tommy, with like binge watching, that's kind of become a thing now with, Breaking Bad and a million other shows where you literally have to watch episode 1, season 1, episode 2, season 1
Yeah, if
throughout.
you if you didn't watch episode 1, episode 5 won't make any sense to you, kind of a thing.
Right.
Whereas with the Florist, I'd like to think it's a little more standalone, where you can kind of, like for example, like I'm not comparing the Florist to Seinfeld by any means, but I think what was so great about Seinfeld was, yeah, once you knew the characters, realistically, it was pretty much a standalone show. It'd be a new conflict, it would be resolved by the end of the 22-minute chunk, and that would be that. You'd be on to the next one. So that's kind of slightly the same approach we have to the Florist. But the big thing is bringing in a lot of really great and exciting guest stars. Like every episode, have some new guest stars that people can kind of get behind. Let's take a second to go over to our comments and say what's up to everybody, because I've just been blabbing my gums here for a half an hour. What's up, Kim? Kim says, hi, Mike and Tommy. Sounds like a plan. Looking forward to hearing all about the Florist. We really appreciate all the support. Kim is always there for us, always chirping out what we got going on. Ariana, what's up, Ariana? How you doing? Ariana, also a big supporter of ours. And of course, Laza from Australia. What's up, brother? He's been sharing all the plugs for the Florist on Facebook. This guy is just phenomenal. I feel like he's our unofficial publicist. Thank you for that, brother. I really appreciate it. Kim appreciates the Larry cameo that we got earlier. I'm not gonna. This is inappropriate. I'm not gonna say that. Hey everyone, says Stephen E. Stephen, what's up, brother? Good to see you. We're excited for you to check this one out too. Ariana's fired up and ready to watch. The Florist sounds like Daredevil, Punisher, Eraser meets Dexter. That's a pretty good group of ingredients right there to make yourself a little revenge pie. Okay, Ariana gets the okay sign from Laza. With your character in The Florist, Tommy, have you thought about adapting aspects of it and doing your own The Crow film fan with you as a lead actor? Me as the Crow would be awesome. I'll tell you what, Laza, I would love to don the white and black face paint of the Crow and get out there and hang from the rafters. If you're out there watching and somebody's got an extra $1,000,000 laying around, give it to me and we'll make a Crow fan film. Laza says, look forward to keeping up with the episodes of The Florist. Thanks, Laza. And we got a little ECW chant going for Tommy Dreamer. Got a cameo from Tommy Dreamer asking his advice on pro wrestling, promoting booking, etc. Was very sound. Much respect to him. Tommy is just such a great guy, man. You hear so many horror stories about people in the business, and it's just nice to know that Tommy's, as they say, one of the real ones. I relate to Tommy with big stars ripping you off. Tommy Dreamer can give an awesome cameo, however, have been ripped off by other ones. Okay, well,
I have
Mike.
told you about that, Tommy.
Yeah, we're not gonna get
I've
into Cameo today.
yeah, yeah.
Ariana says after streaming will just be direct downloaded into your memories. Oh yeah, listen, and I wouldn't be shocked if in 50 years you can just download shit to your brain, right? It's just gonna everyone's gonna have chips in their brain. Shout out to Laza for all the plugs on Facebook for Tommy. Thank you, brother. We appreciate that. You have my support, right, Laza? All right, guys. This has been fun. Let's kind of reorient ourselves back to the show here. So we got everything together. We started crewing up.
Right.
I want to talk about Amanda Pepin because we had mentioned some of the great special effects in this production. Uh, Lots of blood, lots of violence at times, and Amanda Pepin is a not only a very talented makeup artist, not only is she really great at, she can do hair. Amanda can do a little bit of everything, but one of her strong suits is special effects makeup, and she just nailed it. We had some really vicious stabbings in this movie, and one of my favorite moments on set for like a behind the scenes fun moment. And I call Amanda, she's like my set sister. She's kind of like we just get along really well, and we're always just like two kids clowning around, making each other laugh. And we had so much fun during The Florist. There was one scene where we were trying to get blood spatter to fly on a floral arrangement. It was one of my favorite moments. It was just Amanda and I with a paint bucket full of blood and two paintbrushes, and we're just standing off camera, just whipping paint, whipping our paintbrushes at the flower arrangement, creating the perfect blood spatter. We're directly off camera, cameras right here, and we're just getting these perfect splatter shots. Uh, and those are the fun things, man. I'm very hands-on when I'm producing something, and of course, Glenn was really cool with me, kind of just going in there and doing whatever. Normally, you might tell your lead actor like, "Put the fucking paintbrush down. What are you doing?" But Glenn knew that I had like a certain way that I wanted certain things to look, and he really supported that. And yeah, that's why we got along really well when we were making this, and just kind of supporting each other's creative vision and kind of cheering it on. But yeah, Amanda is super talented, and I think that when you watch this movie, you're going to see a lot of really high-end, authentic-looking special effects, particularly with the surprise ending that we don't want to give away. But there's a little surprise ending in this episode, and it's quite the sight that Amanda was able to craft out of her special effects kit.
Well, Tommy, you just not to confuse everybody, you said movie a couple of times, but it's more like an episode, correct?
It's an episode, Mike. Thank you for being Stevie Stickler.
Well, gee whiz.
Yeah.
I'm just
So yeah, Amanda Pepin's an ace. She was terrific, and trying to think, I don't want to forget anybody. Again, like this crew was just so talented. We had Joe Cantor in doing
oh
sound. Joe
yeah.
Cantor is like the old sound wizard. Guy's literally 70 years old. He's still like carrying a boom mic and mixing audio on set. Really talented guy. Um, Another one that stayed over at the house. We had Courtney Goodwin do costumes. It was really cool because if you watch this show, there's a couple of moments where we do some flashbacks to like the 90s. So she was able to create some throwback looks that are kind of fun. I think it's fun. Anytime you're doing anything with costumes, I think it's always unique and fun to be able to maybe you can't do it for the whole production, but if you could just do like one scene that's a flashback to yesteryear, it allows the costumer to go in and like really create a look that's authentic and like taken from kind of can take the viewer back. You can take people back in time with the right clothing, brother.
Yeah, that's how you can get some, like as you said, production values, out of a modest budget. You can do some things to do some cinematic stuff. And you had Scout Lyons, I believe it was Scout, who played kind of your Ethan's video game friend. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
Scout Lyons was in this one. Scout plays like basically Ethan's best friend who, you know, maybe he's never even met her. He just plays video games with her. That's the only way they're really connected. And she's kind of like the voice of reason for him. And Scout's been in the mix for a long time. She's worked on a lot of my productions. And again, when I made The Florist, I really wanted to go with people that I could trust, people that I could rely on, people that I knew were going to be there, and Scout's definitely one of those people. Um, but back to the crew. We had Gina Grenchi and Gianna Del Chapo. She was, they were doing the art department, and they, again, just the level of detail that they put into this thing to kind of make every set specific and unique. Um, and we had a lot of gunplay and things like that, and they had to make sure that it was all safe. And safety's big now. Whenever you have even the fakest of fake weapons on set, you have to be very cautious how it's presented. So Gina and Gianna handled that, along with they had a couple of assistants that came in. Gianna's brother, I'm blanking on his name right now, Steven. Her brother Steven helped out a lot. Uh, but again, this wasn't a big crew, guys. This was a very small crew. Shout out to Alex Soderberg. Alec was our associate producer, who basically was like in the proverbial engine room on this shoot, kind of manning the battle stations, making sure that everything kind of gets presented the proper way, and that we have all the things we need on set from, like, just a standard infrastructure standpoint. Julian Lewis was our first AD. Um, just a really great crew that I loved working with, and I hope we sell enough copies of episode 1 so I get to call everybody up and say, hey, come on back, we're going to make episode 2. Michael Zuccolo's in this movie. I've talked about Mike. Mike, I'm so sorry. I said movie. Michael Zuccolo's in this production, in this web series. I'm just so used to saying movie. Zuccolo has worked. Zook's worked with me forever. He was in my first movie, one of my first movies, not my very first, but Almost Mercy. In fact, it's kind of funny. Zuccolo just shared something on Facebook. It was the very first time we had any kind of video or a social media pic. It was something like that, and it was from 10 years ago. And I was like, God damn, time is flying by when I known Zook for 10 years. But Zook's a very talented actor, and he specializes. He can play any role. I don't want to pigeonhole him, but he's very good at playing like creeps and creepy kind of characters, and he plays a creepy one in this.
Yeah, he kind of gets what's coming to him, and but I won't give away too much after that. But Zuccolo does do a good job with those kind of sketchy guys, and yeah, I think it's interesting, Tommy. And just going back to the production for a second, is there, and you don't have to tell us the number, but is there a certain number of episodes or a certain number of sales to make in order to warrant the budget for episode number 2? Is that something that's
I'd rather not
established?
get into that, Mike. That's kind of behind the curtain stuff. But we got to sell a lot of copies. We get a lot of action here. There's no
Yeah, I hear
question
you.
about it. When you're selling something for only $3 a rattle, and you got to understand, Patreon takes their end too.
Sure.
Patreon ain't a non-profit organization, so Patreon's going to take their end. So if we charge $3 for an episode, we're actually only making $2. So you can imagine, we're looking to move tens of thousands of units here. We want to get things cranking. This isn't something that we just want our mommy and daddy to watch, say good job, son, and move on. We're trying to crack into a different stratosphere of attention with this, and that's why we're having people help out, like Tommy Dreamer, to spread the word and things like that. And we're hoping that all of you watching and action spread the word. Now listen, I know everything's a little bit of a pain in the ass these days. It's not like it used to be when you could just go to Blockbuster Video, you could walk in, you could hand your fucking $4 to the lady behind the counter, and you could walk out with your VHS tapes, and it'd be done. You actually have something in your hands. Everything's floating through the air. It's all bullshit now. But the bottom line is, it's not that difficult to order the Florist. But you do have to be a member of my Patreon page. You have to sign up. You can sign up for free. It's very easy. Mike did it last night. It doesn't take long. I'm pretty sure, Mike, you just have to provide an email address. Is that right?
Yeah, I had a little bit of a technical glitch, and that was more because I think what happens is you sign up for free for Tom DiNucci on Patreon. Then they send you a confirmation email. So my glitch was I hadn't received the confirmation email yet, as I was trying to pay the $3 for the episode. So basically, it's a 3-step process. You go on to Patreon, you find Tom DiNucci, you sign up for the email, then you go to your regular email and you confirm, and then you can pay the $3. And then there's other options if people want to become a monthly member. I think you had three pay structures, which was pretty interesting to me. I was intrigued by that because I'm thinking about relaunching, or actually initially launching my Patreon after setting it up 7 years ago. So I was pretty fascinated by what you were doing over there with the monthly subscriptions as well. You had some tiers with like behind the scenes stuff. And then I think you actually had like, if someone like Laza, he likes these videos, you could actually make someone a custom Tom DiNucci introductory video, and all types of interesting things were going on there.
There's a lot of options on my Patreon page. You should definitely check it out. But really, the number one thing is it's all about the florist. Just check out that shop. And for the price of a cup of coffee, you can have at least 23 minutes of good times and laughs. And
Less,
it's
less than,
much,
yeah,
yeah, less
less
than
than
a
a cup
coffee
of
these
coffee.
days.
Yeah,
Can you
yeah,
believe it, man? I paid $5 for a coffee the other day for
I
a
mean,
medium
yeah.
coffee. $5.
I always see. I'm kind of weird, Tommy. I don't do the drive-throughs at the Starbucks or the Dunkin' Donuts. I actually go in there and sit down, usually with a
You park
script.
it.
I
You
park.
park that.
I
You, as my mother would say, plant your ass down
I'm
and
getting
grow
my
roots.
yeah. I'm the barnacle of the coffee shop because I figure
Mm,
for this $5 coffee, or I like iced coffee actually. I'm going to
sure.
sit there and get my table time in. You know what I mean? I'm going to so I'm going to take advantage of it. And but man, those places, they are charging more and more. So for less than the cup of coffee, you can support this project. You can watch this project. I enjoyed it. I mean, I guess because I know a lot of the players involved, Tommy, like yourself, of course, and Fred, I was most intrigued to see that father and son chemistry. And there's a nice scene. Once again, I'm not spoiling it, but there's a scene in a closet where you guys kind of have a really close moment, and physically close as well as emotionally close. And it just made me reflect upon those relationships, you know. And I think at the end of the day, Tommy, with the putting the bloodshed aside and putting kind of the Generation Z malaise aside, what this story to me comes down to is a father and son relationship. And both gentlemen maybe haven't uh, things haven't gone as well as either one would like with their life, but they've found themselves at this spot. I am curious, and I don't know if I missed something, or if it just went over my head. If there's a mom character to be introduced later, I think that with the Florist episode 1, what I like about it is that you do get your $3 worth, because it does tell a complete story. But in a sense, there's also some seeds planted for future episodes. For instance, the Scout Lions character, I thought I noticed a poster in the background that said New York City, so I'm thinking her character's in New York, and her character could get involved in this. She kind of mentions that. And then you have some other characters, for instance, the Tommy Dreamer character. I mean, he's a huge seed has been planted for future episodes with Tommy Dreamer. And so I like the fact that this is an interesting thing, Tommy, because unlike most of the projects we've talked about on the show, this is not a finite thing where, okay, go and stream this movie and watch it, like Johnny and Clyde, or some of your other projects. This is like, hey folks, this is kind of the beginning of the beginning, or the end of the beginning, so to speak. So this thing can go in more directions, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's one of those things where we wanted to set it up so that we could have a world that we can really tell a lot of story in. You had mentioned a mother character, and that's something that we specifically, we're kind of leaving open for later and to tell some more story down the road. So yeah, we can go in so many directions with this. That's why I'm so excited about it. Uh, and you know what? I just decided now we are going to do a florist episode two part. We can do a florist part two next week because I'm looking at the clock now. We got a few minutes to go, and there's still so much story to tell. I don't want to leave anyone out. Shout out to guys like Nelson, who was the gaffer on this movie. Shout out to guys like David Bateman, who did the music on this movie. Shout out to Scott Rancourt, who did all of the sound design. There's so much to get into. I mentioned Mike Braga edited this. So I'd love to spend next week maybe talking more about the physical production of it and some of the things that we did to actually make it all work and in 3 days, and to keep it on point and on budget, because these people that supported the film, they were so gracious to kind of make the investments that they did, that I could not by any means go back to them and ask for more money. Like, I knew
Right.
that, like, this was it. So I had to be on budget. I want to talk a little bit more about just some of Glenn's philosophies and some of the things that he did differently, and there's a lot to talk about regarding the florist. We kind of just scraped the surface today. But the important things to remember are, guys, really appreciate the support. Please check it out. Take the extra second to sign up for free on my Patreon page. And here's the thing, I'm going to tell you a little secret. This is a little secret only for the And Action folks. If you've been sticking with me and Mike, and you've been listening for 50 minutes and 53 seconds, guess what? The Florist is actually available on Patreon right now. Don't tell anyone. I told everyone tomorrow, but the truth is, I put it up a couple days ago because I wanted to troubleshoot and see if it actually fucking works, because I've never even done this before. So if you really want to watch The Florist, like right now, like tonight, you can go to my Patreon and you go into my shop and you'll see it. It's live right now. That's a secret. Don't tell anyone, because we're telling everyone that it comes out tomorrow. But they don't need to know that, because chances are by the time you watch this shit, it's gonna be out anyway. So The Florist, go check it out. I can't wait. Really, I can't wait. You know what I'm excited about too?
What's
Next
that?
week, I would love to hear from some of our And Action regulars and just keep the conversation going and get some feedback on the show. We'd love to hear what you liked, what you didn't like, where you think we can improve. Hit us with it all. We're doing The Florist Part 2 next week. That's what's happening, Mike.
Well, Tommy, like I said, with me, I actually did get it yesterday, so it does work. And like I said, my only glitch was you have to go in, put your email address in. You don't have to give your physical home address or your date of birth or any of that stuff. And just so that you confirm your email first, I think is the trick. And then you can go to the shop. And in the meantime, buddy, I'm working on my artwork. Uh, and Tommy, I think it's going to be another good week. How's the weather up there in New England for you, buddy?
It is finally turning into some nice springtime. It reminds me of the wonderful yellow in that painting of that pink alien smoking a joint. That's what the sky looks like right now, just warm and yellow. So we're really stoked to be finally enjoying some spring. And hey, it's almost time to get look at that one. Let me see that one again, Mike.
I think
Wow.
these are your favorite of my series is the guys
Wow.
is the alien
Yeah, I love
smoking
that
a
guy.
joint.
It's an alien getting high. The question is, maybe we're the aliens and he's just the normal guy. You ever think of
maybe
that?
maybe we're the hallucination in somebody else's trip. How about that?
Yeah, like maybe if that alien saw a painting of me, he would say, that's what I would look like to him. What's also bothering me? I'm going to close with this.
Sure.
I like this shirt, guys. I really do. I like
Yeah.
this shirt, but I'm experiencing such a collar curl up here. We've got a
Yeah,
collar
yeah.
curl up where my collar, they look like ram horns. It looks like I feel like this is something out of like the Whoville. Like I'm one of the fucking Who's from Whoville. And the whole show, I've just been trying to like subtly curl it back. I've been like, overemphasizing the fold, but
Yeah.
it's just it's a ram horn. And I like this shirt, but I don't think I can wear it anymore. I don't think I can, guys. I think we're retiring this one.
Tommy, it feels like a guy's favorite shirt that he's worn for too many years.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
there's
just
Tommy at the bowling league and he's got his favorite shirt on again.
And it's such a big collar. It's like, what are you trying to do? Why are there so many buttons? What's going
It's
on, guys?
it's
I need help.
Hey Tommy, I gotta say one final wrestling reference to this the Florist episode 1 web series or TV series episode 1 Patreon
Mhm.
series. Let's call it a Patreon series for now. Um, but you actually in this thing is young Ethan because there's I believe Ethan Senior is Fred Sullivan, and you're Ethan Junior, correct? But
That's correct.
with with your hair and your beard, I don't know if you know who this guy is, but Mike Quackenbush, who's the inventor of Chikara Pro Wrestling, he's a pro wrestler himself. He's also a YouTuber who has a really interesting pro wrestling YouTube page. But Mike Quackenbush, you look like his cousin or something, because you guys had like the exact same
Mike,
hairstyle.
of all the people that you could say I look like, of
Mike
all the
Quackenbush.
stars, of all the legendary actors, you compare me to a guy named Quackenbush?
Yeah, well, his first name is Mike.
Quackenbush? All right, guys, you're gonna watch it live now. Now you know what I gotta do. I gotta look up Mike Quackenbush and watch the shock on my face when we see how unlike this human being I look like. Mike, I'm insulted, buddy.
The
Mike,
hair.
I'm insulted. I don't look anything like this guy. Guys, just as a joke, Google Mike Quackenbush right now, and please verify that I don't look
the way that
anything like this guy. Look, there's nothing wrong with Mr. Quackenbush. I'm sure he's a wonderful guy, but don't you dare say I look like this guy.
Well, you gotta find the Mike Quackenbush promo against Tyler Bate, where he has his hair and his beard grown in. You gotta find those images.
Well, guys, on that note, I'm going to get going. But we've had a lot of fun talking about The Florist. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this YouTube channel. We are so effing close to 3,000 subs on this channel. We're like tipping the scales. We're like almost there. So hit that subscribe button. Oh, wait, hold on. We've got a new one. Everyone, Tommy looks like old Lee Lococa, who
Lee Iacocca, the car guy, Lee Iacocca.
Oh man, isn't that the inventor of
that's like the car
Ford? Didn't he invent the Ford Mustang?
Yeah, the Continental Mark III.
Yeah, he invented the Ford Mustang. Listen, I don't look anything like Iacocca. However, he is a great Italian American, so that I actually don't mind as much as Michael Quackenbush. Get out of here. All right, guys, this has been a lot of fun. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please go out and watch The Florist. Drop down in the comments what you thought of it. I can't wait to talk about it more next week on The Florist Part 2. We'll see you then. See you on Tuesday, guys. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Goodbye.